Welcome to a celebration of 100 years of PTA stars. The first historic goals of PTA were to promote the welfare of the children and youth in home, school community, and place of worship, to raise the standards of home life, to secure adequate laws for the care and protection of children and youth, to bring into closer relation the home and the school, that parents and teachers may cooperate intelligently in the education of children and youth, and to develop between educators and the general public such united efforts as will secure for all children and youth the highest advantages in physical, mental, social, and spiritual education. Here's a glance at the 1890s, where our PTA history took shape. Formal education rarely went beyond 5th grade, and child labor was a reality. Millions of children were dying from diseases, and they had little recreation or places to play. Some of the PTA highlights from the 1900s included cooperation with public agencies interested in child welfare, studying the needs of handicapped children. Legislation was suggested for the protection of employed children, and our name was changed to the National Congress of Mothers and Parent-Teacher Association. Our dues were 5 cents. In the 1910s, the PTA convened the Second International Congress of the Welfare of the Child, and our first conference with the NEA Department of Superintendents was held. And in the 1916 convention urged automatic sprinklers and fire escapes in schools. Our membership reached 122,250 with branches in 33 states. And in 1919, the Georgia Congress of Colored Parents and Teachers was founded by Selina Sloan Butler. They contributed $100 annually to the National PTA until the National Congress of Colored Parents and Teachers was organized. PTA highlights from the 1920s include the National Congress President representing the U.S. at the International Council of Women. The first course in PTA work was given at Columbia University, and both the NCCPTA and NCPT hold conventions in Atlanta where they adopted the same objectives. National membership stands at 875,000 members with 48 state branches, and our name was changed to the National Congress of Parents and Teachers. Of course, the biggest news for us came in 1921 when the Virginia branch of the National Congress of Mothers was welcomed as the 39th State Congress in Roanoke in April of 1921. Catherine Chapin Higgins was the National PTA president. Virginia PTA president between 1921 and 1928 was Mrs. Harry Simonis from Cloverdale. The first American Education Week was declared in December of 1922 with these proclamations. On the PTA front, in the 1930s, membership stands at 1,481,105 members in 49 states. Our national PTA president participated in Hoover's Citizens Conference on the Crisis in Education, as well as the World Federation of Education Associations in Japan. Headquarters moved from D.C. to Chicago. In the 20s and 30s, Virginia PTA began work with state agencies to make change within our schools. We worked to develop teacher training and advocated for county and traveling libraries. After our merger with the Cooperative Education Association, we opened our state office in Richmond. The 41st National Convention was held in Richmond with 2,500 delegates attending. By the end of the 30s, our membership stands at 35,600 members. From our notes in Virginia's 1931 report, we find this quote: "Since at our last convention the most talked of subject was child health, Virginia has been busy trying to set before the people such standards as well for better health as for better homes." In the 1940s, PTA is represented on the National Committee on Education and Defense, and the school lunch program, a long-held PTA priority, is launched. In 1946, a joint committee of NPTA and NCCPTA is formed, eventually leading to the unification of these organizations. NPTA is represented at the White House meeting of UNICEF. In the 1950s, PTA calls a conference on narcotics and drug addiction with 25 other organizations. We received a citation from the U.S. Secretary of State for working to make principles of the UN Charter vital and real. National PTA reaches its goal of 10 million members in 1956 and state congresses report almost $2.5 million in scholarship awards to students. The board formally authorizes the use of PTSA as a further incentive for student participation. In Virginia in the 40s and 50s, our membership rises to 242,409 members and 976 units by 1957. We have created 4 $300 loans for teacher preparation courses, and our dues rise to 25 cents. Our convention in Richmond has 1,524 voting delegates. In the 1960s, PTA membership now stands at nearly 12 million members. The 1962 delegates adopted resolutions on education and communism, reducing the number of school dropouts, and action for better quality in motion pictures and their advertising. In 1969, the Reflections program is initiated. Mary Lou Anderson, a leading PTA arts education advocate, stated, "Without the arts, education is paltry indeed." In the 1970s, the National Congress of Colored Parents and Teachers declares that its mission has been accomplished and that the time has come to unite with the National Congress of Parents and Teachers. PTA is honored with an 8-cent commemorative stamp celebrating 75 years, and they co-sponsor Parenting, a PTA priority conference with the March of Dimes. In Virginia, district directors are added to the Board of Managers, and our legislative conference is held in Richmond. Dues are raised from 30 cents to 55 cents, and in 1976, our first PTA Day is held at the General Assembly. In that same year, Virginia PTA is asked to serve on our state Special Education Committee. In the 80s, PTA sponsors Family Reading Week and opposes tuition tax credit legislation, as well as budget cuts to school lunches and school nutrition programs. National PTA institutes Teacher Appreciation Week in May and launches the Big City Project to increase parent involvement in urban areas. In the 1990s, National PTA launches the Common Sense Drug Prevention Program and distributes 750,000 copies of the Busy Parent's Guide to Involvement in Education. In 93, we sponsor the first leadership/legislative advocacy program to help members become effective advocates. By 1995, more than 10 million children have participated in the Reflections program, and PTA returns to D.C. to celebrate its 100th annual convention and a century of commitment to children. We also launch our award-winning website, www.pta.org. In 1997, national standards for developing and evaluating effective parent involvement programs are published and released by the National PTA. But perhaps one of the greatest triumphs in the 1990s came in 1994 with the enactment of the Goals 2000 Educate America legislation. Among the many reforms, it calls for local school districts to make parents equal partners on issues affecting their children's education. In support of the national education goals, the National PTA released its National Standards for Parent and Family Involvement Programs in 1997, and launches a major training program to educate its members and publics about the benefits of parent involvement in 1999. These are the 8 goals. In Virginia PTA, the State Board of Education has its first meeting with the Virginia PTA Executive Committee. Governor Robert Bobb speaks at our annual conference in 1983, and we begin to offer recordings of legislation information through our state office. In 1987, dues are raised to 60 cents, and the Virginia PTA is now number 3 nationally in membership. In 1994, we hold an education summit on parent and community involvement and follow the PTA by launching our website in 1999. Our more recent PTA highlights include participating in the America Goes Back to School, Read Across America, Take Charge of Your TV Week, and Earth Week. Congress reauthorizes the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, renamed No Child Left Behind, and includes PTA's definition of parent involvement, as well as provisions for parent participation. PTA unveils its new logo and tagline, "Every Child, One Voice," as a unifying symbol and recognizable means to identify PTA's mission. PTA passes national resolutions on after-school programs and nutritional eating requirements in our schools to combat childhood obesity. We develop Adopt a Reading PTA program, and we deliver needed school supplies to disaster-stricken areas affected by Hurricanes Katrina and Rita. In 2006, we launched Take Your Family to School Week to strengthen parent-school partnerships and host our first Emerging Minority Leadership Conference. Reflections art is displayed in the U.S. Department of Education building in Washington, D.C. in 2007, and we launched our PTA Grassroots Advocacy Toolkit online. In 2008, we established the Shirley Igoe Advocate of the Year Award to honor legislative advocates. In 2009, we become an endorsing partner of the National Governors Association and Council of Chief State Schools Officers Common Core State Standards Initiative. We are encouraging anti-bullying discussions in communities with our Connect for Respect initiative. And in 2012, we established the Jan Harp Domini Diversity and Inclusion Award to honor the past National PTA president who was one of PTA's greatest advocates for underrepresented families and communities. In Virginia PTA, in the 2000s, we become a charter member of the Virginia Education Coalition and have more than 400,000 members. We add our Action Alert Network in 2002 and become members of the Virginia Attorney General's Internet Safety Task Force in 2006. In 2008, we are promoting our super teachers through a partnership with the Virginia Lottery. We adopt a 3-year strategic plan in 2001, and in 2013, we are represented on the Governor's School Safety Task Force. In 2014, HB 903 is passed, which names Virginia PTA as a member of the Standards of Learning Innovation Committee, codifying the role of Virginia PTA in the development and implementation of state standards. In 2015, we've reviewed and revised all of our bylaws, and we welcome First Lady Dorothy McAule to address our members at convention. In 2017, the Vice President of Advocacy is added as an elected officer to the Board of Directors, indicating our support for advocacy as one of our main goals. And in 2018, we participate in several school safety committees, we serve on the State Superintendent's Advisory Board, we add an executive director to our state office staff, and most recently, in 2019, we were appointed by the Governor to the Commission on African American History Education. We established 8 new charters, and we were also named as a commissioner to Virginia's Complete Count Census Commission. So this concludes our celebration of 100 years of stars, and to all of our stars, past, current, and still rising, we celebrate you and your commitment to Virginia PTA and all our children.